Hi, I'm Bevy Smith, and I'm here with Cornell Jermaine on the Build on Beauty podcast.
Welcome to the Build on Beauty podcast, where beauty is born skin deep. Now, here's your host, author, speaker, entrepreneur, Cornell Jermaine.
Thank you for joining me. I have a special guest with me. She is a pop culture aficionado, fashion expert, TV personality, and host of Sirius XM's Bevelations, which is also the title of her new book. Please help me welcome the mother, auntie, and bestie, Miss Bevy Smith. Bevy, how you doing today?
I'm good. Thank you for having me here to talk about Bevelations, lessons from a mother, auntie, bestie.
Yes. I see the neon sign and all the books. You got it set up really cute. I love it.
Thank you.
Yes, we want to talk about your career and, of course, the book. But before we do, I want to start from where you're from. You talk about Harlem so affectionately, and you're known as the quintessential Harlem girl. You open your book up by saying, whenever I went out into the world, my goal was and always will be to represent Harlem, my community. Through the years, what influence has Harlem had on you?
Well, I think it's not even so much about an influence. It's more about a sense of pride and a sense of legacy. And so when I'm going into the all-white worlds of fashion, luxury fashion, of advertising, and also television, I go in with a very strong sense of self. I know that I am more than enough as I am. I don't feel a need to contort myself in any kind of way so that I can fit in. I know I am what's in because Black culture is pop culture. And, Harlem is a cornerstone of that. And therefore, when I show up, darling, that's all you ever really need. So I'm going to give it to you, And so that's what Harlem has given me, a really great sense of pride and sense of self, which, again, comes in very handy when you have to go out into a world that will like to tell you, that will try to convince you that you're not enough.
Yeah, so true. Speaking of Harlem, there are so many greats that have come out of Harlem, one being the beloved late and great Cicely Tyson, whom you had the opportunity to speak with just days before her departure. What was that experience like?
It was incredible. I had been in Miss Tyson's company in social settings for probably the last 5 years. We were always at the same galas, and oftentimes we would be at the same tables because we have mutual friends. And so I knew Miss Tyson from a social standpoint, but I had never had the opportunity to actually sit down and talk with her in that kind of way. Because, when you're at a gala or something, or like, an event, it's just like, hello, how are you? I love you, Miss Tyson, that kind of thing. And you keep it moving. But to actually have an opportunity to sit down with her and talk to her about her book, Just As I Am, which again, it just puts a cherry on top of what I was saying earlier about being from Harlem and what kind of a sense of pride it gives you. Miss Tyson showed up in the world as she was, and she left this world as she was. And I think that was such a great lesson. But speaking with her only 3 days before she transitioned was like one of the highlights of my life and certainly of my career.
Yes, I can only imagine. What went through your mind when you learned of her departure? Like, having just spoke with her just so recent, like I'm sure the shock hit you, but like what went through your head after that?
I was immediately devastated for a lot of different reasons. My father passed in April at the very early stages of COVID. While Miss Tyson did not pass away of COVID, she is a victim of what goes on. She's collateral damage in the COVID conversation because, the first thing I thought of was, oh my gosh, we have lost so much history. We have lost living history. And that's what our elders are. To be able to, my mom is 93, to be able to talk to someone who is 93 years old and watch the United States versus Billie Holiday, and she can say, oh, I remember when I came to New York, Billie Holiday was around, but they were talking about how bad she was on drugs. Like, when you talk to someone like a Miss Tyson, it's just like you get the chance to talk to living history. So that was the first thing I thought was, oh my gosh, we've lost history. The second thing I thought was, wow, this is hitting me in a way like when my dad passed away. It hit me really strong, and it was so incredible because so many of my friends called me to check on me because they knew how much I loved her. And then the third thing that really I thought of when she passed away was coronavirus has taken so much from us. Because for the last year of Miss Tyson's life, and she was a social butterfly, she was locked away in her home. She was not able to do the things that she loved. She was not able to go out and about and put on her beautiful clothes and get her glam done and show up and show out. It's the same way I felt about when I heard Mary Wilson passed away, because I interviewed her several times on my radio show, Bevelations. And Mary Wilson traveled throughout the world her entire career, and she was always working. And so that meant the last year of her life, she was stuck in a home, stuck in her home, not doing the things that she loved, not doing the things that reinvigorated her. And so I think that that's something that a lot of people are not thinking about when they think about this horrible pandemic that we're in the middle of.
So true, so true. You mentioned your dad, and my condolences to you and your family. It's my understanding that that ordeal ushered this new passion for patient advocacy. Talk to us about, first of all, your dad, and then what this mission is all about.
Yeah, my daddy, Gus Lee Smith, was such a magnificent man, and he gave me my love of travel. You know, I'm a solo traveler. I've been to 6 continents, and I've been to all those continents at least one time by myself. So it's my dad used to always say, Mama may have, Papa may have, but God bless the child that's got his own. And this was a man, you know, who was married to my mom for over 50 years, but he instilled in his daughters that it was important for us to have our own. And I can't tell you what that kind of message, having that message instilled in you since you're a little kid, you can't imagine the importance of it. And also him showing us the world through books, which is also why my sister and I are avid readers as well. So my daddy was just amazing. And he was our primary caregiver when we were growing up, because my mom got off work later than he did. So my dad was the one who cooked for us and picked us up from after school and things like that. But my dad, you know, passing away of COVID while he was in a rehab facility, which was also a nursing home. But we had plans on bringing him back home because we were like, oh, you know, they're not doing much for him, so we might as well bring him home and care for him. And then when all of this happened, they closed down the nursing homes without any warning. And then my dad was kind of stuck because we could have brought him home, but then he needs care. And that means someone has to come into his home. And at the early stages of coronavirus, they were not testing people. They certainly didn't have a vaccine. So it was like, wow, do we bring him home and have my mom also be in the danger zone? Because my mom doesn't need any care. She's self-sufficient. So we had to make that tough choice. And you know what I will say, the reason why we're so passionate about patient advocacy is because we were in the dark about so much of what was going on with my dad. We didn't have those space times that we should have had. We didn't know when, we didn't know much about his care that was going on. And then, of course, the people in these places, these facilities, are overworked and very underpaid. underpaid. And if you ever go to any of them, I want you to notice the makeup of the people who are working there. These essential workers are Black and brown people, traditionally first-generation immigrants. And they are being paid pennies to care for people round the clock. That should change. That should certainly change. You know, I thought it was so, it was the height of hypocrisy when the pandemic was raging and everyone would stand outside and clap for the healthcare workers. I was like, they don't need our applause. They need bigger checks. They need PPE. You know, they needed wellness breaks. They needed so much. They did not need applause. I mean, the applause was nice, but for so many people, especially lawmakers, to be like, yes, we love them. And even like, you know, Cuomo, now he's in big trouble, our governor. You know, so many people loved him during the pandemic because he came on TV and he was like a governor that was in control. But I knew that he wasn't taking care of business in those nursing homes. And so now when it turns out that he's, it seems that he lied about 15,000 deaths in those nursing homes, I'm not surprised. So that's why I'm a champion of patient advocacy.
Wow. I can totally empathize with what you went through, because my dad spent 2 years in a nursing facility prior to his death, and that was before COVID. But I can only imagine what it was like having to deal with COVID and not being able to go see him or make sure you. So you guys the strength and endurance that your family had during that is remarkable. So again, my condolences to you.
Thank you.
You climbed the corporate ladder and reached such high significance and heights in that arena. Tell us a little bit about your professional career before entertainment.
Well, yeah, I started working in advertising when I was 18 years old. I was a receptionist. I worked my way up to being a media director at an advertising agency that specialized in luxury. So I worked on the Vanity Fair magazine account, worked on Bill Blass directly with Mr. Blass, worked on Shiseido Cosmetics, lots of really great, marquee brands. And from there, I was really restless. And I didn't know what I wanted to do in my life, but I knew I didn't want to do that. And so I quit. And when I quit my job, I just kind of had like this wanderlust. And I was like, maybe I want to do PR. Maybe I want to do events. I didn't know what I wanted to do. And friends of mine were working at Vibe magazine. They called me and they said, we have an opening for a fashion advertising director. Do you think you'd be interested? And I was like, well, not really, but I'm very interested in working at Vibe. Because prior to Vibe, I had only worked in all white environments. So I was working in luxury fashion advertising, and I would be the only one or maybe one of two, And I was like, wow, being at Vibe is very exciting, because then you get to be around your culture and your people, and you can change your hair and no one's going to ask you, how long did that take? Can I touch your braids? All those kind of questions, right? So I went over to Vibe and I excelled. And my job there was to actually go to Europe, to Milan and Paris primarily, and to create and to entice the advertisers to actually speak to the African American and the Latinx community by advertising in Vibe. And so I was successful at doing that. I was able to break all the big brands, the Gucci's, the Pradas, the Dior's, and things like that. And for many years, I was very happy until I wasn't. And I started getting that wanderlust again. And I said, I think I don't want to do this anymore, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. And in my book, I talk about the ugly side of my beautiful life, because I was so unhappy doing something that I had dreamed of doing for a very long time. And then when I reached that peak, I realized that it wasn't what I wanted really in life. I realized that I was hedging my bets. I realized that what I really wanted was a life filled with creativity and freedom. And I didn't know how I was going to get to that. I was 33 years old. And in the book, I described having a full-on meltdown in a Milan hotel room. This room that was filled with beautiful gifts from all the major design houses. This room that I arrived to after flying first class from New York City to Milan's Malpensa Hotel. Airport, where my car and driver, Giovanni, was waiting there with the engine idling, where we pulled up to the hotel, where I took my usual corner suite. I had all of these things, and it was fabulous until it wasn't. And I knew I had to make a change. And then in the middle of trying to make a change, I literally went to another job. I went to Rolling Stone magazine, where right back into the only one. So there I was the only woman on the sales team, and I was the only black person who wasn't a security guard or a mailroom person. And so really, really tough to be there after being in kind of like the Wakanda environment of Vibe magazine, to go back into an all-white environment and an all really male-filled testosterone environment. But I excelled there as well, because I'm nothing if not tenacious. But I knew I was going to quit. So I took that job with the understanding that I would not be there for long. It was a stopgap measure. And in my book, I talk about the fact that sometimes you have to, at all times, you should have a strategy for your life. So I knew I was taking this job in order to make the extra money that they were paying me. They were paying me about $100,000 more than what I earned at Vibe. And so I was like, I'm going to take that money and I'm going to run. And then I'm going to create the life that I've always wanted. And that's what I did. I was at Rolling Stone for less than a year, maybe 10 months. And then I quit. And I did my sepia version of Eat, Pray, Love. And I traveled the world for a little bit. And then I got back down to business.
Wow, wow. You say something in your book that I found so interesting, and I want to quote you correctly here. You say, for every genuine connection, there were 10 forced relationships with snobs, insecure mean girls, and needy people who thought I was some kind of magical Negro who could advise them on everything from their love life to their career. Their brand of self-absorption and obliviousness began to wear on my nerves. I was frazzled, but it wasn't only being in service to clients that wore my smile down to a grimace. Ultimately, I was exhausted from being in service to the persona I had created for myself. What was that persona at the time? Tell us about that.
Well, in the book, I outline all my personas. So I started out at my core, I'm Little Brown Bevy, and that's the best part of me. But she left me when I was around 12, 13 years old because I decided I didn't want to be a nerd girl. I wanted to be a cool girl. So I had to take on a different persona, and I became, MC Bevsky, because it's the 80s and it's the height of hip hop, just bubbling up from the streets. It's like, and everyone thought that they could be a rapper. So I'm MC Bevsky. And then I move on to become Big Bev from Uptown, and that's when hip hop goes mainstream and starts making lots of money. And that's when I'm hanging out with Tupac and Biggie and Puffy and all the guys from the 90s heyday of hip hop, and I'm having the best time. At that same time, I also have a career, a burgeoning career in advertising. But I do not let the two ends meet. I never let my personal life and my professional life ever be intertwined. Which then brings me to Beverly Smith, fashionista. And that's the one that I realized was like, I think that was probably where I really got myself into a lot of trouble. And that's where in the book I describe, being a shopaholic. I have a lot of unhealthy attachment to sex and sexual entanglements. And I'm not very present for the people in my life. I'm a fashionista and I travel all over the world, darling. So you have to understand if I miss your birthday, Mom. Oh, you have to understand if I can't attend your wedding, my dear sister. Oh, you have to understand if I'm going to miss your baby shower, best friend. You know what I mean? And so I'm having this persona that's taking over my life in a very negative way. But I think it's okay because look at what I'm able to achieve in my career. Well, that's no way to live. And that persona was also the persona of the woman who was able to go into boardrooms and have these presentations that would not only engage people, but also educate them about my culture. Meanwhile, I was neglecting my culture. I was neglecting my people, all in the name of this high-flying fashionista Beverly Smith. And so, I knew that when I was changing my life, I needed to let her go, change my name. And so I used to be Beverly Smith. And in the book, I describe how I was in that Milan room and I said, I need to change my life. But what can I do that's an easy way to change my life? What's the first entry point of changing my life? I said, I'm going to change how people call me, what people call me. And I'm going to become Bevy Smith. And I'm going to make sure that Bevy Smith is enough. It doesn't have to be Bevy Smith from Vibe or Bevy Smith from Rolling Stone or Bevy Smith. No, it's just going to be Bevy Smith. Mm-hmm. And that was the beginning of me building my personal brand. And in my book, I talk about, I have 2 chapters, Brand New and also the Red Soul Proposition. And I go into how everyone should have a personal brand. Even if you're working within a corporation, you should have a personal brand within that corporation. Because God forbid you get laid off or you get fired. You want to be able to go out into the world and have a sense of self and not have it be so tied into something that you don't control. Because no matter how good and how high we get at these jobs, they're just a job. They can fire you whenever they want, even if it is with a golden parachute. So you have to start establishing yourself as your own person.
So true, so true. You mentioned that persona in what's particularly in that professional arena. I'm curious, was that a mirroring where is that just the persona of people in that high society, or was that something that you felt you had to be in order to be accepted?
Well, I don't think it was so much about acceptance. I think it was more about what you said, mirroring, and it was corporate culture, kind of. You know what I mean? And so it's just what we did, darling. Of course, when you watch Devil Wears Prada, I was definitely, when I first saw that film, I was like, well, I don't know why people are upset with Miranda Priestley. This little girl is ridiculous. You know what I mean? I empathize with the villain of the film. Well, that tells you something, right? You know what I mean? And so, we made all these excuses as to why we had to be so tough. My excuse was, I'm responsible for bringing in $10 million, so I have to be tough. Well, there's a way to get the job done without being an asshole.
So true. You mentioned rebranding and going from.
That's another one of my Bevelations. Don't be an asshole.
Absolutely. You mentioned branding Bevy Smith, and we see now that it has stuck and it has made you the brand that you are. I'm curious, what work did it take on your part to become that Bevy Smith?
Oh, I had to do all the good introspective work, right? So this is not a surface job. I had to go deep. I had to dig deep, and I had to unearth all the kind of ideas that I had in my head about who I was and who I wanted to be. For instance, I have a chapter in the book called Manhunt. In the Manhunt, I talk about the fact that for years, what I was attempting to do was secure a husband. So not so that I could have a loving relationship. I thought that was just like an aside. But what I was really trying to secure was a man to take care of me. Okay? Which is someone saying to me now that when I look at who I am today. And so it was like really crazy to even have to write that out. But yeah, I was in hot pursuit of a man to take care of me and to make me happy. Meaning, I used to tell, and there's a gentleman in the book that I write about extensively, and he was the last person I thought I was going to marry. And I would say to him, it's your job to make me happy. Now, I will tell you this. I had no concern about whether or not he was happy. I really didn't. I was very self-absorbed, and I was really myopic when it came to what it is that I wanted. And it's like a very selfish way to live. And also, it was a very harmful way to exist in the world, where you're going through the world and you're having these relationships that are supposed to be built on love. But really what it's built on is ego and a desire to get what you want at any cost, even if it meant being married to someone and even having children with someone, and that's not really what you truly want. Like, I never really wanted kids, but I understood that having children, if you get married, is a part of the bargain oftentimes. So I was willing to have children, even though I didn't want them, just so I could have someone that would take care of me. In the book, I talk about, if I had kids with this guy, then that means I don't have to work. But I want him to give me help, so I also don't have to take care of the kids. You know what I mean? So that's the kind of work I had to do on myself, to look and hold the mirror up to myself and be like, well, that's pretty ugly. So how are we going to fix it? And in my book, I talk about the fact that I had to figure out who I was at my core. How was I being perceived? How would I like to be perceived? And the way I was being perceived was selfish, bitchy, not and a person with a really harsh tone, and a person who was very judgmental and know-it-all. And how would I like to be perceived? As someone who was kind and giving and empathetic and there to help people, and was capable of loving people and therefore receiving love. And so I had to do the work to get to that. And so I had to unearth my core. And my core is Little Brown Bevy, the curious, sweet, adventurous, kind girl who I left behind all those many years ago. And I had to bring her to the forefront. And that's how I was able to change my life.
Wow. You have a chapter that talks about, and it's called Booked, Blessed, and Busty.
Yes.
You talk about your physical evolution. Let's talk body image for a minute. Talk about, because many will be surprised where you started as a young girl, skinny and frail, and now you're full and voluptuous, which is beautiful. Talk about that evolution and body image and what that meant for your career.
Well, it meant nothing for my career. It did not. And it also doesn't mean a lot to my life, and for me, Booked, Blessed, and Busty is not so much about body image and body positivity, because I think that when we call attention to that kind of thing, even if it's in a supposedly positive way, we're saying that we're other. And I'm nobody's other. My body is my body. My body is also nobody's business. And so I enjoy my body. I enjoy the way I look. And so in book Blessed and Busty, I just talked about the fact that I was this bony kid. And I enjoyed being really skinny and slithering through little tiny cracks and things like that. And then, I became Big Bev from Uptown, which Big Bev was not about my physicality. Because if you look at the book, when you see Big Bev from Uptown, she was maybe a size 6. But my persona and my attitude and my swagger was Herculean. And so, you know what I mean? So again, it's more of a mindset versus a physicality. And then when I turned 40, I really began to gain weight. And so what did that look like? Or I talk about the fact when I hosted my first ever TV event, the Vibe Awards. I was like, I had gained a little bit of weight, but I was still really sexy and vibrant to everyone who looked. And everyone, was attracted to me on that red carpet. The men, the women, the children. But I thought it was important to put that in there because I know oftentimes women, when they're starting to gain weight, feel insecure. So here I was a woman who was starting to gain weight, and I was on a red carpet on TV. So what does that mean? And for me, it didn't mean much of anything other than acknowledging my dress size had gone up, but I was still a bad chick. And so for me, if women look at me, as they often do, the reason why the book is called Mother, Auntie, Bestie, and the bestie part of it is because so many women have reached out to me on social media and said how much they are inspired by me because I show up as I am. Because I am a curvy woman who doesn't make a big fuss out of it, but also doesn't shy away from, showing off those curves. I just show up and show out. I wear pretty clothes. I wear fancy clothes. I wish you could see what I have on today. I wish you could touch this. This silk is so insane.
It looks like it.
It's so gorgeous, and these are little pearl buttons and everything. It's a fabulous frock. But so women oftentimes tell me they're inspired by me because of the way I present myself, and even when I was on Page 6 TV, I talk about that. I was beside my co-host Elizabeth Wagmeister, who was a young, thin white woman with blue eyes and blonde hair, and yet I was not her sidekick. I wasn't secondary to her as far as beauty went. I actually held the space and the station on that show as a queen, as the grande dame of Page 6 TV. And never was my size, my weight, my complexion, my hair, none of it was ever mentioned. Because none of it ever felt like a deterrent for me or like a detriment to me. It never felt like I've never looked at who I am and the way I look or where I'm from as something that's going to be able to hold me back. Mm-hmm. And so I want women to start not letting people put their stuff on them. Because a lot of the reason why women feel bad about themselves is because we have bought into the notion of what other people consider beautiful. Mm. But if you look in the mirror, I can catalog all my great gifts. My nose, which is my daddy's nose. My lips, I have a perfect Cupid bow. You can't really see, but great high cheekbones. With the exception of dark circles, I have gorgeous skin. So if I didn't have dark circles, I wouldn't even be talking to you with any makeup on. That's how beautiful my skin is. So, I have all these gifts. But we are not taught to catalog our gifts. Oh, but baby, if you sit a woman down, she can tell you all about her flaws. And so I'm against that. That. And I think that the beauty does come from the inside and it seeps to the outside. So the way I feel about myself is the way that I comport myself. And therefore, that's the way people treat me in the world. So like I said in the book, I have no idea if being curvy and dark skinned and all of that has ever kept me from getting a job. I don't know. All I do know is that it certainly has gotten me a lot of jobs.
Yeah. Speaking of jobs, you mentioned Page 6 and other Sirius XM, which we mentioned, your show Bevelations. Is there a moment in your entertainment profession that still leaves you breathless?
Well, for the when I first quit my job at Rolling Stone magazine, it was my goal to become an actress, and I really wanted to become a stage actress. And when I took acting classes, my a woman, a really world renowned acting coach, Susan Batson, she told me that as I was, I could work. She said, "You are the story. You're the book that's waiting to be told." And I was like, "Wow!" And I said, "But I want to be a dramatic actress." And she was like, "You can work as you are." And my mentor told me, "Oh, Bevy, you don't need anyone else's words. You have the words." And I kept getting booked for TV hosting things, to do commentary and stuff like that. And so I veered into TV hosting. And, I've hosted two shows, Bravo's Fashion Queens, and then also now the Page Six TV show, which was nationally syndicated, which are really big feats, right? And so when Page Six TV got canceled, I didn't go out and try and get another job. In the book, I talk about the fact that I did not call my agent and say, "Get me another TV show," because I knew I wanted to do TV still, but I wanted to do it differently. And so I said, "Let me just take a beat." And right before the coronavirus shut down New York City, I went on an acting audition. And at that acting audition, I was very nervous. I didn't want to go. And the reason why I didn't want to go is because I was like, this pandemic is really bad, and I don't know what's happening, so I don't even know if I should be going out and about in the world. One, and then two, I was like, I don't know if I'm good enough to actually go on this audition and not stink up the joint. And in the book, I talk about how I went anyway, and how glad I was that I went. And I said, I don't know what happened with that job or what even happened with that show, but I'm so glad I went. Well, a month and a half ago, they called me back, and I filmed that show last week. So now, at the age of 54, your friend Bevy Smith has dared to dream, has followed her passions yet again, and now I can officially say I am an actress because I've been paid to be an actress. And I say in my book, once they give you a check for something, that makes you a professional. So
that's right. And speaking of television, it's and you correct me if I'm wrong, it's my understanding that you have some development deals in the works, or can you just share a little bit about that?
Yeah, so one of my other goals for TV, as I said, I made a decision when Page Six TV ended. I didn't want to do TV in the same way, and I said I want to develop shows. I want to produce shows, and so yeah, I'm working with a couple of different folks to develop shows, and so I'm hoping to get something on the boards by the end of 2021. That is my goal, and my mantra is it gets greater later. And to anyone out there that's listening, I don't care what age you are, in your 20s, your 30s, your 40s, your 50s, your 60s, your 70s, onward. We just watched Norman Lear at the Golden Globes receive an award, clear and fabulous and lucid in every way. We just saw Jane Fonda. She's in her 80s. Norman Lear's in his 90s. And so it's never too late to follow your dreams and your passions. And the number one Bevelation is what it says on my mug. It gets greater later.
Yes.
And I believe that wholeheartedly. And so that's what I want folks to do. And instead of resting on your laurels, a lot of times we get so happy because we're comfortable. And the Cheers song, sometimes you want to go where everybody knows your name. Well, I'm the opposite. Sometimes I want to go where nobody knows my name. I love being discovered. I love discovering new parts about myself. So if you're staying in your safe space, if you're just being complacent in any area of your life, and that could be your professional or your personal life, find ways to shake it up just a little. Find ways to change it up. And right now, with this virus raging still, is a great time to practice the art of the pivot. We can all be doing something a little different, so that when the world opens back up, we'll be prepared for it. And we'll have new skills that we can show the world. And we'll have new interests that perhaps will lead us down a different path than what we've ever imagined. It's a wonderful time in that regard. And so, you don't have to necessarily do what I did, which was jump out the window and quit a big 6-figure job. I'm not saying you have to do that. But what I am saying is that you should definitely be exploring your inner thoughts and daring to dream. So many of us have suppressed our dreams. So many of us hedge our bets when it comes to our dreams. We dream safely. We dream with a plan B. No, dreams shouldn't have a plan B, darling. Dreams should be go big or go home. And that's when you really get a chance to see. I believe to find your purpose, and I feel that I'm so very happy with where my life is going now. I'm so amazed at the fact that this book, which has only been out now for almost 2 months, it'll be 2 months on March 12th, has given me so many new opportunities. And I want to share those opportunities with people because I want them to understand that if I did it, you can most assuredly do it.
Yes, absolutely. I love you, Bevy, and I love that mantra. It gets greater later. It made me think about that recent interview you had with Wendy, and you mentioned about surviving during those few years of lean or in between blessings, and having to get that can of salmon and make a whole meal. I have to say I've had salmon croquettes at least twice a week for the last year.
Okay.
Are you a salmon and syrup with biscuits kind of girl, or how do you?
No, I'm not a salmon and syrup with biscuits. No, now I tell you, I'm a curvy girl, but I'm not trying to listen. I'm not trying to go too far down the line. You know what I mean? So yeah, no, I don't indulge in an insanely high caloric food in that way. No, like what I would love to have. I would love cheese fries and a milkshake. But those are things for people who can gain a pound or two and then not be a problem. All my fancy clothes and everything, I don't want to have to gain. I don't want to have to let nothing out.
Right.
So I'm gonna stay away from your salmon, your biscuits, and your syrup, and I'm gonna stay away from my milkshake and my cheese fries. And this morning I made myself a beautiful breakfast. I made a salmon scramble. I made one scrambled egg with spinach, Vidalia onions, and a beautiful smoked salmon that was cured with black cracked pepper. And then last night I made myself an entire bag of broccoli with a beautiful pan-seared cod with basil and garlic, and exactly one serving, as in I measured it out, one serving of cacio e pepe from Trader Joe's. Divine meal. You can go on my Instagram and look at it. It was fabulous.
Now, I'm a real foodie. You mentioned Trader Joe's. That's one of my favorite stores. Now, what's that item you mentioned?
Cacio e pepe. It's just a pasta with pepe, and some Parmesan cheese. But at Trader Joe's, they serve it all. I mean, they sell it frozen. So for me, I measure it out. I'm a Weight Watchers girl, so I measure it out and I make one serving of it. It's 9 points and be done. But the broccoli has no points. You just eat a whole damn bag of broccoli. That'll fill you up. And then the cod, which was beautifully done with olive oil and the basil and the garlic. 3 points. That's it. So my whole meal was only 12 points.
Oh my goodness!
Mm-hmm.
Well, when we open back up, I don't know if you're still having dinner parties, but I'm gonna have to be in attendance because I want some of that good food.
Okay, a dinner with Bevy is definitely on the books, but I don't cook at dinner with Bevy.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I don't cook at dinner with Bevy. I'm the hostess with the mostest at dinner with Bevy.
Oh, you're just glamorous. You come in fabulous. I got you.
I just come in fabulous. That's it. You're not gonna have me sweating in the kitchen.
I got it.
I don't want to be in the kitchen.
Right. Oh my goodness. Well, Bevy, I appreciate you joining me. Listen, guys, go out and get the new book, Bevelations. Hold it up so we can. Yep. Lessons from a Mother, Auntie, and Bestie by Bevy Smith. Now, tell us where we can get the book.
You can buy the book anywhere that books are sold. Your Amazon, your Barnes and Nobles. But of course, we love to support small independent bookstores, especially Black-owned ones, and also women-owned ones, because it's Women's History Month. So please think about buying your books from local independent booksellers as well.
And the show is still on Sirius XM?
Sirius XM, Bevelations, channel 102, Radio Andy. It comes on every day at 5 o'clock. And we always have great celebrity guests. And And yes, it's a great fun show. It's pop culture, celebrity interviews. Like, you said, I interviewed Miss Cicely Tyson. I've had lots of big stars from Samuel L. Jackson to Kate Hudson, lots of really Kevin Hart, lots of big guests. And then, of course, you get a chance to chat with me because it's a call-in show. So you can call and ask me questions and chat. And also you can find out how to get your Bevelations merch, www.bevysmith.com.
Hey, well, Miss Bevy, I appreciate you. My best to you and the development deals, the new TV project. Can't wait to watch.
Actress Bevy is the one I'm most excited about. I'm telling you, because when I tell you 54 years old and embarking on something that yet again is a youth culture kind of profession. I'm here to show everybody it gets greater later.
Absolutely. Now, I just got to say, now they're not going to try to make you the Felicia Rashad of the film. Like, we want you to still, because you're 54, but you're youthful and you're young and vibrant. So they're not typecasting you because of your age. Are you there?
No, I'm sexy.
Okay.
I'm sexy. I got some nerve in this character. Yes.
Hey, I love it. Thank you so much, Miss Bevy. My best to you. And when all is clear, maybe we'll get a chance to sit down and chop it up and have some good smoked salmon.
Okay, right, exactly. I'm gonna come and see you in Detroit because I like Motor City. Last time I was there was for Aretha Louise Franklin's funeral, so I'm overdue.
Oh, wait, I was there too. Where were you at?
Yeah, I was I was with the family.
Oh wow! Well, it was so many people in there. But it was a beautiful ceremony.
It was a beautiful ceremony.
Long though.
Very long. I was at Miss Tyson's funeral too.
Oh, how was it? They didn't televise that one though.
No, nothing. It was beautiful though. Very small, obviously due to COVID, but it was lovely. Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Who eulogized her? The pastor there?
Yep. Reverend Butts and Tyler Perry got up and spoke, and Bill Clinton spoke. BB Winans sang, Valerie Simpson sang. It was really lovely.
Wow. Okay. Well, our best to you, and thank you so much for being a great example of strong Black women who can do it in any genre, any industry, in any way they want. You are truly an example of that, and thank you so much.
Thank you, baby. It was great chatting with you.
Well, this has been the Build on Beauty podcast, where beauty is born skin deep. I'm your host, Cornell Jermaine. Until next time, let your soul be made whole. Take care.
Thank you for listening to the Build on Beauty podcast. For more information about our host, please visit CornellJermaine.com.